Early collections of rare and exotic animals were originally used to demonstrate royal power. Zoos as we know them today began to pop up in the early 19th century, the first of these being founded by the Zoological Society of London. These institutions intended to use the animals for research, but after being open to the public, they quickly became a new type of public entertainment. Nowadays, many zoos emphasize animal conservation as part of their mission. To fund these conservation efforts, zoos need a wealth of money which they obtain by relying on their patrons. These include both private donors and zoo-goers. While patrons who make large donations are often concerned with conservation, average zoo-goers are more interested in seeing charismatic animals, such as large cats, elephants, and primates, for their own entertainment or family fun, a theme that is reflected in many zoo advertisements. Because of this, zoos focus on their marketing efforts in promoting such animals, and there is no better example than the panda. As a marketing goldmine for zoos to garner patrons and donations, specific attention has been given to the panda, which has been made the flagship animal of several conservation organizations. However, for all charismatic animals, this attention can be potentially problematic for the overall goals of conservation, as it focuses on a select few out of many endangered species, many of which are underrepresented because of their low popularity, a topic which has been heavily contested.
This debate covers a wide variety of viewpoints, but the arguments generally fall into two main categories: those who see the benefit of focusing on specific species to generate funds, and those who believe that such a tactic is not only ineffective, but potentially harmful as well. The complexity of these arguments is well represented by Serpell's axis, a graph that helps to summarize people's conflicting attitudes towards animals by organizing them according to their affect, the affective and/or emotional response to animals, and utility, the animal's instrumental value. How different and even same animals fit into these categories differs between individuals, and can sometimes lead to contradictory responses. For example, those who support panda preservation recognize them as useful because they benefit humans by bringing in zoo funds, and help conserve other species as an umbrella species. On the affect axis, pandas rank strongly because of their apparent harmlessness to people and cute and charismatic appearance. This places them strongly in quadrant 1. By contrast, those who are against panda conservation programs do not recognize charisma as an important factor, and instead judge their worthiness by how capable they are of surviving on their own by taking a utilitarian-oriented, survival of the fittest approach to conservation. Within these bounds, those who are primarily against pandas recognize that pandas themselves are categorically useless, which detracts from their emotional value. They do not deny the appeal of pandas, but they do not see them as useful, which dampens that appeal and places them in quadrant 2.
Opponents to the emphasis on charismatic animals claim they are toxic to conservation efforts as a whole. This side claims conservation biology has become a popularity contest, with animals such as pandas drawing inordinate amounts of attention and funding. Less popular animals are seen as less important, despite being more endangered or more ecologically valuable, even if they could be saved at far less of a cost. This bias can be seen even among scientific literature and research, where charismatic species dominate. It is a bias also propagated by some media, as seen in this clip by Minute Earth. This leads to an endless cycle of funding given to pandas, which further exposes them and in turn generates even more funding for their cause. Another point that opponents to panda conservation note is that despite the emphasis placed on reviving the species, success has only been attained with pandas in captivity. They are still far from maintaining survival in the wild. Ultimately, this group claims that human emotion has played too large of a role in the decision to save pandas.
Another side of the flagship species argument posits that taking advantage of the public's gravitation towards charismatic species is beneficial towards conservation as a whole. This argument usually refers to the idea of an umbrella species, which is a species whose preservation will ultimately protect other species in its environment. For example, conservation efforts aimed at pandas also help to protect the bamboo forests in which they live, which account for 31% of all forests in China, as well as contain 70% of all forest mammals and birds in China. Those in support of panda conservation programs thus argue that the value of the program is greater than just its benefit to pandas, and is instead derived from its benefit to the entire biosphere. Here's a clip by the South China Morning Post explaining just that. By making and supporting panda conservation programs, you are supporting panda reserves, which support all of the species under that umbrella, like the Tibetan macaque and the golden pheasant. The popularity of pandas, along with other charismatic species, allows zoos to capitalize on social media trends to bring in donations. For them, the value of a panda conservation program is their ability to take in these donations and funnel them into other programs while also keeping the lights on.
Propaganda against pandas often emphasizes that they are poorly equipped for survival, calling the animals lazy, bad at reproducing, and generally useless. They acknowledge that the pandas are cute, but dismiss this fact as being trivial. Touting headlines such as "the world's most useless creature," "why pandas suck at being pandas," and "pandas aren't cute, they're death-loving oxygen thieves." Many of these opinion-based pieces use illustrative language paired with vaguely scientific reasoning to prove their point. This type of propaganda portrays ending panda conservation programs as being synonymous with the death of the species, using pandas' lack of survival skills to prove that the emphasis on them as a conservation symbol is misplaced. Recognizing the appeal of charismatic animals, zoos often perpetuate this attraction by using them to employ propaganda techniques. This is apparent through Twitter feeds and advertisements associated with the Miami and Phoenix zoos, which use images of well-known charismatic animals and emphasize how fun they are to invoke familiar fun feelings that different forms of entertainment media have impressed on the public. Regarding the fun appeal, there are advertisements like those for the Phoenix Zoo that emulate advertisements for amusement parks. These use a visual bias to draw attention to the serious fun tagline by increasing the size of and changing the color of the text for fun, in comparison to serious. While the description does mention the educational component of the program, the primary emphasis is on making it appear to be an enjoyable experience.
As can be seen from the conflicting views regarding pandas as a flagship conservation species, the issue of using specific species to garner funds for conservation efforts is a complex one. While protecting these charismatic species can have both direct and indirect benefits for other species, such efforts are not always efficient and may actually funnel money away from species that could be more effectively benefited. However, because of the sheer popularity of these animals, it is unlikely that reducing the focus on them will occur, so expect to see the continuation of panda exhibits in zoos for the foreseeable future.